Game Day is built by the Home Depot, proud sponsor of college football's premier pregame show.
In Oklahoma, a little trickery and deception from Mother Nature. Does this look like sunny and 80 to you? Cold and drizzle. We're used to it by now. This is a great scene here, a scene that is duplicated all around the college football landscape today. 8 big ball games on Survival Saturday. And welcome to our special Survival Saturday College Game Day. Chris Fowler, Lee Corso, Kirk Herbstreit, Rocket Ismail joins us in a couple seconds. Are you ready? As a fan, you got to be ready today, don't you?
No question about it, because remember, 5 of the top 7 one-loss BCS teams all lost on the road this year. And that means, watch out, Georgia, Ohio State, Washington State, and Nebraska are all on the road. One more loss than...
They're done. The other thing to remember, we always talk about offense, all the scoring. Remember, offense sells tickets. The defense wins championships, and I think that'll be the theme today. The defense will win all these big games today.
Why does it have this label? Well, because the survival of all the serious BCS contenders will be challenged today. The championship race could be reshaped after the play of 8 big ball games today. But beyond the big picture, it's the small, personal motivations for the folks actually in the arena today. Pride and payback and redemption and territorial supremacy. This stuff goes back to the cavemen fighting for a scrap of woolly mammoth meat. I mean, it's good stuff. Here, the Big 12 South is fought for in Norman. Nebraska can take a huge step toward the North Division title if they can mess up Texas. Same players, different defense with a bunch of Roy Williams toyed with last year. But question, can Jamal Lord generate enough offense? He'll test Texas with the power game. Battle for Michigan won by the home team, 10 of the last 11, including the woodshed beating of Sparty a year ago.
Well, Jet Smoker's going to continue to keep the magic alive today in East Lansing, going up against the Michigan defense that has struggled on the road, but last week they stepped up big against Purdue.
It's the Noles at Notre Dame, the 75th anniversary of Newt Rockney's win, one for the Gipper speech. And the Irish find inspiration, beat Bowden back-to-back, Lee.
Well, last year Notre Dame forced numerous Noles turnovers, embarrassed Florida State in Tallahassee. Could it happen today in South Bend? You never know.
You better tell us. In Jacks, the pattern, Georgians party harder, Florida plays better.
I remember growing up hearing about the largest cocktail party in the world and all those kinds of things, but until you're in this game, it's a different kind of game.
It's the first cocktail party for Chris Leak, a long way from legal, but lethal, unless big game stud David Pollock can rattle him. Now, the Dogs are beat up. They're getting by on guts. The Gators are coming off a bye week. That could be important. There's depression in Happy Valley. But, Kirk, will the Buckeyes show the Lions too much respect?
The Ohio State defense will win this game, but for Ohio State last week, somewhere to pick up the pieces. Over 600 yards of offense, and now you're going to see Santonio Holmes and Chris Gamble step up for Drew Carter, who's out for the year.
West Coast Game of the Year again, Wazoo USC. It is just speed versus speed.
Washington State's first-year head coach Bill Dorba is doing a great job. He's got a linebacker named Will Durting who'll be after Matt Leinart all the time. But Matt here hits all-world Mike Williams all the way.
His ankles improved. He should play. Then Survival Saturday, all bills to Blacksburg tonight on ESPN. The Hokies and Brian Randall fight for redemption as the BCS contenders everywhere root for Berlin and company to fall tonight.
It's us against the world, and either you're with us or you're against us, and most times you don't want to be against us.
And there is the ultimate prize, the ADT National Championship Trophy, still 6 wins away for the Canes and the Sooners. Today could be the toughest remaining hurdle for each. Now, I know it's true that the experts believe that this game should be the most lopsided of all the Survival Saturday games. Most folks expect Oklahoma to unleash all the fury of the humiliation heaped on them by the upstarts from Stillwater. But wait, these Cowboys are not afraid. By the way, Les Miles 2-0 versus Bob Stoops, and these guys wear bright orange, not burnt orange. Miles really stirred it up this week when he said that Oklahoma is the best team in the country, or so we're told. Ooh. I mean, they're frisky, and they're not spoilers. Oklahoma State has a lot to play for in this game. The Bedlam label, by the way, dates back to a wrestling meet between the schools back in the 1940s. And Rocket, I want to know if you can feel the lack of love in this Bedlam series down there?
When you mention this game, the folks around here, there's one word that keeps coming up: Bedlam. It embodies the atmosphere, rivalry, and intensity that surrounds this game. That intensity has been magnified because little brother Oklahoma State has beaten big brother Oklahoma the last 2 years, knocking them out of the national title picture. Now, Lee, because of that, I feel Oklahoma takes this game more personally than the Texas game.
Ooh, Rocket, good stuff. This is a great battle of the haves and the have-nots. A lot of wars have been fought over this same situation. Let's review the situation. Let's take a look at the stadium. Poor old Oklahoma State has 48,000, Oklahoma 83,000. Oklahoma State coach makes $800,000 a year. Bobby Stoops makes $2.2 million. And know this, 80% of the Oklahoma State players would love to play for Oklahoma, but they were rejected. So those rejects and those have-nots have beaten the mighty Sooners twice in a row.
I think that's
what do you
the key.
think?
Well, I think that's the big key. I think they come into this game really upset because they hear about it all year and they don't get the respect that they think they deserve. We always talk about Oklahoma's great defense, and they deserve that talk, but Oklahoma State plays great defense as well. They put a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks. The last 2 weeks, 10 sacks alone. They have the Big 12 sack leader in Greg Richmond. This trend will have to continue today for Oklahoma State to have a chance to stop the Oklahoma vertical passing game, because the Sooners love to get the ball thrown downfield, and they can do it in a hurry. Mark Clayton has been able to make the big plays this year. And, of course, Jason White, I think he's more accurate with the deep ball than any other ball that he throws. And that'll be something to watch today. Oklahoma State is here to win. They're willing to take chances. They're willing to blitz. They're willing to play a lot of man coverage. And if they don't get to Jason White with all that pressure, Jason White will have a lot of touchdown passes and a lot of big yards through the air. If he has time, he'll have a big one.
And we'll talk coming up about how this cold and this drizzle might affect the quarterbacks in the passing game. Oklahoma, under Bob Stoops, has lost exactly one game here at Owen Field, and that was Oklahoma State a couple of years ago. And by the way, another footnote for you, these fans know it, a #1 ranked Oklahoma team has never lost a home game. They've been #1 in the AP poll 89 weeks. So a history to protect here. With the Cowboys, they had their longest win streak in 16 years, averaging 46 points a game. We'll talk more about that offense against the Stoops Troops defense. Break out the ice and the party napkins. The world's largest outdoor cocktail party kicks off. The Dogs trying to avenge last year's loss to the Gators. And today in Blacksburg, Miami's Jarrett Payton tries to forge his own legacy in the footsteps of his late father.
I love him for him to be around. It makes things a lot easier, but it also has made me have to step into my own role as being who I am, and that's Jarrett Payton.
College Game Day, built by the Home Depot. You can do it. We can help. In part by Miller High Line. To live simply, proudly, boldly, manly. This is the High Line.
Survival Saturday, noon Eastern. ABC has Michigan State. Some of you will see Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, not folks in the East and the Midwest. Out West, you'll see Wazoo, USC, and everybody can see Miami and Virginia Tech primetime on ESPN tonight. Our singular championship text challenge answer on ESPN.com, and you could be on your way to the BCS. Which game here among these four choices holds the most interest for you? At Rumble in Blacksburg tonight, the Canes will go for 4 straight over Virginia Tech.
If we lose, we're out. If we win, we're in.
For one, we shouldn't lose to anybody. And for two, if we're on the road, it's just like a home game to us anyway because it's a business trip.
If you put an animal in the corner, he gonna fight his way out.
Hold on, stop it. Who was that kid that put up 6 touchdowns, 200 yards against him last year?
Willis McGahee made some money in that game, didn't he? Well, not just because of the 3 straight losses to Miami or the recent meltdown in Morgantown. This right here, this is a landmark opportunity for Tech to amend a long history of failure versus top 5 opponents. Look at the company they are keeping. 0-19 all time. I'll tell you, Beamer versus the top 10 all time, 0-6. Versus ranked teams the last 4 years, 1-6. Versus the last 17 Big East opponents, 9-8. Now that might mean something for tonight. It might mean nothing for tonight. But Virginia Tech is not a team that is short on motivation. I don't just mean the loss in Morgantown that shook them up a little bit.
Those numbers are worth a yoke.
Are they? Okay.
I mean, that was wonderful. Generally speaking, after a big loss like Virginia Tech, this is what I recommend that coaches do. First of all, you use positive reinforcement, because when a team's down, you can't love them enough. Second, the head football coach takes full responsibility. Don't blame anybody else. And Kirk, the last thing and not least, you put an aggressive game plan in, because when a team is down, your play calls make them play harder, and you keep after them and keep aggressive, and they get themselves up again.
Well, the other thing is Virginia Tech has a lot of pride. I mean, this is a program, forget about the numbers Chris just talked about. I know they haven't won the big ones, but they still are a team over the last 10 years who knows how to play in big games. They just haven't been able to get it done. Let's look on the other side with Miami. Miami, if you look at their defense, you pull out the first half of Florida, you pull out the West Virginia game, you compare that film to what you saw against Florida State, it's like watching two different teams. The difference in the Florida State game is they felt doubted. They felt like people questioned their ability, and they came out to prove a point, and they dominated that game. You could talk about the weather, you could talk about whatever you want. It wouldn't have mattered that day, because Miami showed up with a point to prove to the country that they were a #1 ranked team or deserving of that kind of consideration. Now, you have to believe that the Canes, this is an attitude game for Miami. With the way Virginia Tech played against West Virginia, how will Miami show up in this game? Will they feel that same threat that they felt when they played Florida State? Because they're playing on the road in a hostile environment on national TV with their national championship hopes still alive. You got to believe that defense is going to show up with their A game.
And they will show up healthy at safety finally with Sykes and Sean Taylor ready to go. And Taylor symbolized what you're talking about. When he shows up, he's got 6 picks of the Miami 10 interceptions for the season. Was that forearm?
I think he's got something going there.
A lot more on the Hokies and the Hurricane scores coming up on College Game Day. We'll talk about all of the BCS contenders who are challenged today. The one-loss teams still have plenty of hope. They do need some help. We'll tell you which ones are in the best position to capitalize on a potential upset here in Norman. They don't even want to think about that. Can the guys in the cowboy hats get the hat trick? More on that ahead as well. We're talking rivalries here. What about Sunday night NFL football on ESPN? The Packers and the Vikings, an excellent rivalry. Favre against Moss. Division foes going at it. A critical game on ESPN tomorrow night. We want to salute a legend in coaching, John Gilardi, Division III, St. John's, Minnesota, with a win today over St. Thomas. They can stay unbeaten, and Coach Gilardi can tie Eddie Robinson for the all-time all-division victory record at 408. A lot of attention on the Bowden-Paterno thing in Division I. Not enough attention on what he's doing, tying Coach Robinson. And by the way, Coach Eddie Robinson, suffering the effects of Alzheimer's disease, certainly want to wish him well in his battle with that very tough disease. Coach, we're with you. Time now for our Survival Saturday edition of Speed Drills from the guys in the studio, Reese, Trev, and Mark. Guys?
All right, Chris, a little bedlam out there. We'll return with a little sanity here with a little speed drills. And, guys, Survival Saturday, teams needing to make a statement. Trev, the team that most needs to make a BCS statement today.
I think it's the Georgia Bulldogs, Mark. You look at this football team, the last 2 weeks, absolutely sleepwalking, looked terrible against Vandy, terrible against UAB. It's time for Georgia to step up. If you're really going to be a player, no more sacks, no more turnovers, especially offensively. Georgia needs to prove that they're BCS worthy.
Well, my team's Washington State. This is a team that no one respects right now because they're playing out in the Pac-10. They lost to Notre Dame. They're ranked in the top 10, but many across the country don't. They haven't seen them play a lot. If they can beat USC, that makes a huge statement in the BCS.
You making that pick?
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, well,
I said if.
All of these games that we have on Survival Saturday, the most likely upset that will shake up the BCS picture.
Well, it's Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is going to beat Miami. It's in Blacksburg. I didn't get the weather that I was hoping for, but I'm telling you right now, college football is all about emotion. And these young men playing in Blacksburg, their backs are against the wall. You know they're going to come out fighting. Brian Randall and Kevin Jones are going to prove that they're great football players. West Virginia was an aberration. They beat the Hurricanes.
It's Florida. Florida's going to defeat Georgia again for the 6th consecutive time. 13th out of 14th time. You got a healthy Florida team. I don't hate Georgia. These are the facts.
You never said one thing nice about Georgia.
The way that Georgia played against UAB, the way they played against Vanderbilt, the way Florida played against Arkansas and LSU, they're a hot team right now.
All right, guys, a player who can do the most for his Heisman chances today.
Well, I think it's Tatum Bell. I mean, if Tatum Bell against this OU defense, we all hear about OU and how great they are on defense. Young man's averaging 135 yards a game. Mark, he got 106 last year. If Tatum Bell comes out and gets 130 150 yards. All of a sudden, Tatum Bell, 1 or 2. But clear, there's 8 or 10 guys up for the Heisman right now.
It's a wide open race. I agree with you on that fact, but I think it's Kevin Jones for Virginia Tech. If he plays as he did 2 years ago, he had 160 yards against Miami, and they do upset Miami. I don't think they will.
Thank you.
He'll get back in the Heisman race.
He just picked it.
You guys remember last week at Bowling Green, I made the home crowd mad by mentioning Michael Turner. I'm going to make the home crowd happy now. I believe the answer to that last question is Jason White, Chris.
They love you, Reese. They love you.
Hey.
All right, time for a little word play here. Team desperate to make a statement today.
Texas.
Virginia Tech.
Word 2. Spoiler.
Florida.
Florida. Notre Dame.
Is it Alan Leduc?
Notre Dame.
Dark horse.
Michigan.
Ohio State. See you in 3 weeks, 4 weeks.
One word.
Commercial. Bump. A lot more coming up. We got ranked teams in the Big 12 facing off today. Okie State and Texas looking to knock off their top 10 rivals. Of course, a lot more in those games. And a subpar season for the Gators so far, but they can still take a bite out of the dogs. Chris Leak sounds very determined.
He doesn't want a girlfriend until he wins a national championship. Now, that is not desire to win a national championship. I don't know what is.
You're watching College Game Day, built by the Home Depot.
Back to cold and drizzly Norman. In every good rivalry, you got to have a nickname. Here, of course, it's Bedlam. In Jacksonville, it's the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Guys like Quincy Carter will be watching today.
Georgia, Florida, and the Redskins and Cowboys. Don't get bigger than that.
Terrence Edwards haunted by that drop. It was the only thing Mark Richt really hasn't gotten right at Georgia so far as beating the Gators. It's become customary at the cocktail party that the Gators sip Cristal and the Georgia players cry in their beer. 12 of the last 13. That is remarkable. The Dogs remain the nation's most wounded team. They've lost 7 guys for the year. 22 different players have missed at least 1 game. And Georgia's coach Mark Richt so concerned about fatigue, his team did exactly no contact work in practice this week. That is a first. Georgia must win to keep a grip on that SEC East. A Florida win really creates some chaos. Bobby McCray, the sack leader in the SEC, out of the game, suspended, reportedly for academic reasons. Florida off that bye week, an extra bit of time for Chris Leak to get ready. Rocket, you were down there, visited with impressive young freshmen. What was your take on Chris Leak?
What a difference a year makes. You can't imagine the gap between playing high school quarterback and coming into a major university and playing quarterback. But Chris Leak has overcome. Now, it's been some rough spots, like the 3-interception loss to Ole Miss. But instead of benching him, Coach Ron Zook stuck with him, and his patience has paid off.
Left trip between left, right, open left split, 33, He's picking up so much stuff, picking up stuff faster than I would imagine any freshman to do.
When I came in, I was a little skeptical. How can this guy be this great?
Leak fires over the middle. Touchdown, Florida!
On September 27th at Kentucky, the future became now for the Florida Gators, as Chris Leak became the first freshman quarterback to start a road game since Jesse Palmer did it against Auburn in 1997.
I wish I could say that I was a big shock, but, when Chris first came in here, everybody kind of knew that he was going to be an eventual starting quarterback, so we were just wondering when.
Felt like he belonged when he first got here. That's one of the things that I really liked about him in recruiting, because he does have that confidence that he is going to be successful, the team's going to be successful.
If you get your chance, you got to take advantage of it, and if whatever happens, happens, but if you give 100%, it should work out for you.
Nowadays, freshmen coming out of high school, they want to be the man, and they let you know it, and they come on campus like, I'm about to run things. So, Chris, that wasn't a part of his MO?
No, when he first came on this campus, you would have never known who he was. The boy doesn't talk. He's not an individual that comes out and tries to impose himself upon you. He comes in the huddle every time, just the same, doesn't change. He's calm, collective, focused, driven, and just says, hey, this is the play. Let's go do it.
It's that calm focus that Leak drew upon as he completed 38 of 64 passes, including 3 touchdowns and leading the Gators to their last 2 victories in hostile environments at LSU and Arkansas.
Never know what can happen. I mean, just the SEC, the great teams, we have great teams all over the SEC, and you never know what can happen in the game, so you got to stay focused, take one play at a time.
Chris in particular is focused on what's going on, what the alignments are, what the situations are, and not worry about what the crowd noise is or how people are trying to do things.
Can you sense that as the games progress, he's getting more confidence?
He made a statement. He doesn't want a girlfriend until he wins a national championship. Now, that is not desired to win a national championship. I don't know what is, especially in college.
He's mature ahead of his years, and you know what? We talk about it, but once again, until you're in that environment, you know, there's really, it's hard to prepare a guy.
This kid has something special about him, and I can't wait to see him develop in the next 3 years.
Even though he's a freshman, he has poise beyond his years. It's no small thing to beat LSU at LSU and Arkansas at Arkansas. There's 2 things that I came away with after talking to him. One, with every game, he's gaining more confidence. And Lee, those coaches down there are doing an outstanding job of getting him prepared.
Rocket, especially Ed Zombreaker, the quarterback coach, has done a great job with Leak. And he's using a lot of the same principles I used when I had a freshman quarterback. The first thing you do is simplify the offense, especially in the number of reads and the number of automatics. Second, you put a game plan in that doesn't force the quarterback to win them all by himself. And last but not least, Kirk, you're keeping the game plan what the kid can do the best. Whatever it is, do that, because that's where he'll excel.
Well, one coach that knows about that is Mark Richt. And I had a chance to talk with him earlier this week, and by the time I got done talking to him, I was thinking, I don't know how Georgia's going to be able to field a team, let alone compete against Florida with all the injuries. They're kind of limping in after 2 unimpressive wins. How can this MASH unit compare and compete with the improving Gators? And I thought, wait a second, with all these injuries, isn't 14 still healthy? As long as number 14's healthy for Georgia, everything is okay. David Green is the key. They got to be able to run the football, I know, but David Green's poise and experience. Freddie Gibson's going to try to go today. We'll see if he's able to go close to 100%. Also, Michael Johnson's going to come back. These are the receivers that he needs. I think all this talk this week about the Georgia injuries, all this talk about this young Florida team improving, I think it's an us-against-the-world mentality this week for Georgia. I think Georgia will go in. Forget about the dominance in Florida in this series. Today, Georgia gets it done and beats Florida.
That's a nice pick, but I'm going with Florida because I think defensive coordinator Charlie Strong will come up with a brilliant defensive plan. I think the Gators win it in Jacksonville, Florida.
My question is, he broke the pencil. Do the Gator fans on our crew, are you rooting for or against your team?
Right down here.
Some Gator fans root against their team because they want to see it look good. It is twisted. It is twisted. By the way, a Florida win would certainly help the causes of a lot of those other one-loss teams like USC and Washington State and Florida State in that BCS. A lot more BCS talk coming up. And the other storylines on Survival Saturday, 10 years after the game of the century, the Noles return to South Bend. It's on the edge of the radar screen, but coach says beware the upset there. It's been 35 years since Michigan State was ranked higher than Michigan at kickoff. The Wolverines won that one. Who prevails today in this bitter battle? And USC was 2 minutes from the Rose Bowl when Wazoo took it away last season. Can Troy produce payback in the Pac-10 Game of the Year? Revenge, of course, a dish the Sooners want to serve up today. Bob's Soups and the risky business ahead.
ESPN College Game Day. Brought to you by ESPN.com. To buy College Game Day hats, go to ESPN.com and use keyword search College Game Day hats. Also available at specialty retailers.
BCS standings behind Oklahoma and Miami. The one-loss teams are bunched tightly from 3rd to 6th. Noles, Trojans, Dogs, Buckeyes should be some reshuffling in the coming weeks, even if they keep winning. Then there's a big 6-point drop to LSU. They're not going to get any help by playing Louisiana Tech today. Wazoo, Nebraska, Michigan State, they have a lot to make up there. They could get a bit of a boost with some wins today, but the intrigue continues. There was some leapfrogging this week. There's going to be more of that.
Well, Florida State's got a tough situation. They got at Notre Dame, at Clemson, and at Florida. 3 of those tough games. But the win of the Washington State USC team, I think it's got a shot at the national title. Why? favorable schedule, and no Pac-10 title game.
Two things. Number one, in my opinion, USC right now, and I think you would agree, is playing as good as anybody in the country. If they continue that, they're going to be a team to watch out for. If we have a bunch of one-loss teams at the top, the Georgia Bulldogs are the team, if they can stay healthy, if they run the table, because of the strength of schedule and quality wins, they'll be the one-loss team that ends up getting in. Could be.
Right, I'll give you the human equation as a pollster. The teams that have a lot to gain in the polls, I think, by winning today, Wazoo, they're kind of undervalued. Michigan State, if they beat Michigan, that's big. And Oklahoma State. I know they're way down in the BCS, but if they come in here and beat #1 Oklahoma in Norman, are you telling me that's the best victory anybody's had all year? Why not vote them way up? I'm just saying.
That's a good point.
Not saying it's going to happen, but if they pull it off.
Quality win factor, too.
Oklahoma State, you know, this year's big three-headed monster on offense kind of reminds folks of 1988's Oklahoma State team. I mean, it wasn't in the black and white era. It was 15 years ago, but they had some old-timers. Barry Sanders, 2,600 yards, 39 touchdowns. Then they could throw the ball, too. Mike Gundy, now an assistant coach to Hartley Dykes. 14 of Gundy's 19 touchdown passes went to Dykes in '88. That's much like the offense this year. They had a little trickeration, a little flea flicker. They only lost one game, by the way. That was to Oklahoma. This year, more excitement.
He's into the end zone. Pistols firing. Touchdown, Tatum Bell.
Bell nearly 1,100 yards rushing. He would be #1 in the country if he hadn't fumbled against Louisiana Lafayette and been pulled out of the game. Josh Fields, a junior, who's going to get all the records that Gundy has before he's done. And Woods, he's going to be the 8th 4,000-yard receiver in history if he gets 40 yards today. He's already broken all of Hartley Dykes. Rashawn Woods, by the way, last couple of years against Oklahoma, 20 catches, 355 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Had 12 of the 18 receptions a year ago.
Well, Oklahoma State, as we know, loves to throw the football against Oklahoma, beat it, but I think they like to test that manhood of Oklahoma, and they go run right at him with old Tatum Bell. He's the #2 receiver in the country. Rusher. But don't be surprised if old Oklahoma State goes to those Sooners today.
You broke your watch.
I know, but that's okay. I'm getting excited.
Yeah, you are. It's the Oklahoma State in this game. It's, you know what? It's the balance of Oklahoma State's offense. That's what makes them so tough. And Mike Stoops is one of the best defense coordinators out there. He can't lock in on one area because they can hurt you, and they have big play potential in both aspects. So it's tough to defend these guys.
Yep.
And it's a big day for the Sooners safeties. Brandon Everidge, who can be an All-American. He can be out to lunch. You're never quite sure. And Dante Nicholson as well. Also a very important day for him. In Austin, Nebraska tries to become the first team from the Big 12 North to beat a team from the South Division. The North is 0-6 against the South, but it's also a much more personal statement for Nebraska. Is this program ready to return to dominance on the road against a good team? Under Solich, 1-9 against ranked teams on the road. They've lost 5 out of the last 6 conference games on the road. There can be no rebuilding in Lincoln without fixing that. Understand that. 3 of the 4 remaining games are on the road. There's very little mystery what old Mac Brown is demanding today. He wants to firm up a soft run defense. It's among the worst Texas has had in years. And also, they got to get the ball back so Vincent Young can do something.
And they'll be ready, though. I tell you what, and I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking Nebraska's defense, so not so fast before you even talk. All right. Texas's new quarterback, Vince Young, is sensational. He can beat you with the run. He can beat you with the pass. What a football player this Vince Young is. And I tell you the thing I like about him the most is that number 10 will sit in that pocket, watch him right here, and throw a nice shot. But this is unbelievable. Smooth and fast. He averages over 8 yards per carry. He reminds me a little bit of Michael Vick. That guy's a tremendous player. And remember, against Nebraska, the athletic quarterback is giving them trouble, like Brad Smith in Missouri, who hung up 27 in the 4th quarter against Nebraska. So a delayed, not so fast, Texas at home wins that one. I got you before you think.
You're killing me here. Good stuff there with all the quarterbacks and the receivers. You're forgetting the whole point here. And what happens when Texas gets into a game with a team that's going to knock them in the mouth? It's up front, in the trenches. The offensive line of Texas going up against a Nebraska defense that gets better and better each week. They play with confidence, they attack, and all that talk about Vince Young running all over the place and the great Texas receivers, it's not going to be a factor because Nebraska's going to win the battle at the line of scrimmage. Same old formula for Nebraska. Defense, creating turnovers, giving Jamal Lord the short field, and then he'll run it in against that defense for touchdowns. Nebraska goes in to Austin and
on
wins.
the road.
Hook 'em horns.
You've been stepping out there lately. I know it's not a big upset, but you picked Nebraska on the road. That's kind of stepping out there. Anytime you do it.
We'll see at the end of the night. Hook 'em horns.
Nebraska visits Oklahoma State, by the way, next week. You've broken a pencil and a watch. It's only segment E. We have a lot of show left.
Saturday. Exciting stuff.
It's good stuff.
Miami's Jarrett Payton. We're going to hear from this excellent young man here. Carries the hopes of the undefeated Canes into Blacksburg tonight. And these Heisman hopefuls continue to pile up numbers. Who's leading the pack and how solid is that front runner's lead? We'll talk Heisman and more coming up.
College Game Day, built by the Home Depot. Brought to you by Singular, the wireless company that fits you best.
Good scene here in Norman. It's the drizzle. We got the hip hop during the commercials. We got the OG back here.
Hell yeah.
This is stuff. In Oxford, Ole Miss tries to stay atop the SEC West at 5-0 before the schedule starts to get real serious. They got to reverse a trend. Under Cutcliffe, they're just 4-10 in November, but under Holtz, South Carolina just 2-9. Here's a fun stat for you. If Eli Manning has 3 touchdown passes, the Manning brothers pass the Detmer brothers for the all-time brothers lead. That's something to keep an eye on.
Another yo. Well, you're killing them today. Okay, now Ole Miss's defense has been really not very good. They're next to last in the SEC, but they get better every week. And the reason why is they're playing better pass defense. They allowed 49 points against Texas Tech. And the last 4 weeks, they've allowed only 52 points. Wow. And the leader there is Jamie Mitchell, a giant defensive end. 6'6", 280 pounds. Watch this athletic play from the bottom of your picture. Watch him. 6'8". Woo. Nice athletic play right there. Now, the Ole Miss defense will keep this one close enough in this ball game until Eli Manning lights it up in the fourth quarter. I like Eli Manning, and I like Ole Miss in this ball game.
I want to make sure I read. I'm never going to say these 5 names again. It's about Eli Manning. It's about the passing game. The running game's giving them more balance. But it's also about Trey Stallings, Doug Beckles, Justin Sawyer, Marcus Johnson, and Cliff Woodruff. The Ole Miss offensive line, nobody ever talks about. These 5 guys, when they've stayed healthy, have given Eli Manning the time to throw and given these running backs the running room that they have had to come up with in big games. And I think this is going to be the same old story for Ole Miss. Offense leads the way, leads guy Eli Manning. Big game today. I like the Rebels.
You just made those big hogs' moms and girlfriends very happy. You know what? And they better show up next week because they got to go at Auburn, and the Tigers have owned them, and then they got LSU at home. So those O-linemen,
keep it going.
He gave you some love. You got to keep it going. Let's talk about the Heisman. Now, you mentioned Eli Manning, of course. We got 6 weeks to Heisman Saturday, so there's 5 more weeks of games to vote. Right now, it looks like a 2-man race. If you go by the ESPN.com and the Scripps Howard straw polls, it's Jason White, Larry Fitzgerald, and below that, a bunch of guys. Hayden Bell is starting to get some love here.
Okay, I like Eli Manning. I've said that before, and I tell you why. He's leading his team to the best start in 33 years. Plus that, he has Heisman numbers. He's thrown 18 touchdowns this year with over 2,200 yards. He throws the lob pass right here beautifully, and then he scrambles around and hits the guy in the end zone with a nice little bootleg play. Now, here's the key point why Eli Manning is my leading candidate. He's lost 2 games this year, 2 of them. And in those 2 games, he put up 79 points and still lost. Could you imagine if he had the Oklahoma defense on his side? He'd never lose a game.
No, yeah, he needs that defense.
That's
You're
right.
sticking to your guns. Your July pick.
With him.
Sticking with the July pick there. You know, let's just set the record straight. And all of us agree, anybody who follows the sport, the Heisman Trophy, it comes down to really who's the best player on one of the best teams in college football. Just look in the last 12 or 13 years what's happened with the award. The only time you can find a player who's been on a team that lost more than 2 games was Ricky Williams, and he set an NCAA record. So with that criteria, Jason White right now is the front runner because he's quarterbacking the #1 team in the country. But if you were to give it to the player who's the best player in the country, it's no contest. Nobody's close to Larry Fitzgerald, the Pittsburgh Panthers. He might not be on a team that's going to get to 10 or 11 wins, but if you're just looking for a player who makes plays, look, and why would you ever play one-on-one against Larry Fitzgerald, Syracuse? Not only there, but look at old 20s, the safeties trying to stay right there with Larry Fitzgerald. I know it's not going to change. I'm just saying the award, I don't know if it says it on the actual Heisman Trophy, but the award should go to the best individual player, and the best individual player in college football, I think we all would agree, is Larry Fitzgerald. The guy's a freak.
It says most outstanding player. You want NCAA records, by the way. If he catches a touchdown pass today against BC, which is not a very good pass defense, that'd be 14 straight. That would tie Charles Rogers' record, which technically counts a bowl game. So there's a record for you.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
but Jason White's a great story, too. And he's got great numbers. And his team hasn't lost a game either.
Yeah, we're with you. We're with you.
That's right. We're with you.
We're coming up on Pac-10 Talk. Wazoo and USC in the Coliseum. Pete Carroll knows just how big this game is.
One heartbeat, one mind. One big-time win. I'll meet you here when it's all over. Let's go.
And we'll go inside the mind and the playbook of Bob Stoops and the culture of risk and reward here at Oklahoma. Norman, the drizzle continues, but so does the build-up to Bedlam. We're coming right back. Well, the Sooners want to hang 50 on Oklahoma State. They're dancing to 50 here. Look at the kid in the hat has got every lyric to every song. It scares you. He knows every lyric to a 50-cent song. That's a lot of listening at home in the bedroom. In the Coliseum, the crowd of 80,000 expected for the Pac-10 Game of the Year. Wazoo and USC. Cougars took away the Rose Bowl a year ago, and they always are going to feel disrespected, even though they've beaten SC 3 of the last 5, and they've actually won 4 more games than SC since the start of 2001. Key injuries, well, the Cougars are getting healthy up front. A couple starters are back, and that's good because Matt Kegel has a pair of sore shoulders. The left one is just strapped in there. He's trying to play through pain. Pete Carroll told us last night, Mike Williams, wide receiver, the ankle looks much better. He should be okay to go. This is a statement game for Carroll's crew, a team with a bright future already erasing the malaise of the recent past. Shelley Smith now on Pete's Trojan turnaround.
There was no tradition and no pride about the university.
A lot of people lost trust in the coaches, and, you know, they just didn't care anymore.
Things were very depressing. There was not a more beleaguered football team out there.
Enter Pete Carroll, a hiring move that stunned some alumni wary of his pro football background, but a move that was applauded almost immediately by the players, who badly needed someone to trust.
They hadn't been successful. They had come to the University of Southern California to win big.
Because Carson Palmer had 5 different position coaches. The running backs had about 5 different position coaches. Very hard to trust anybody in college football when you have that many coaches. Pete Carroll was able to turn that around immediately and get these guys to trust him.
When you were being recruited, what made you trust him?
The fact that when he came to my house and he talked to my family, I don't think he mentioned football one time. He talked more of the importance of how he wants to build a family atmosphere.
Carroll has done that and has USC back on top by working his players hard and becoming a master of the unorthodox.
Well, you know, on the first day of practice, we take the players to the beach, the Manhattan Beach volleyball tournament.
Get the guys away from the camp attitude for 2 or 3 hours, and then come on back and pound them into submission almost, and bring them back to the front, and then pound them again, and let them know that there's always something good about to happen.
One heartbeat, one mind. One big-time win. I'll meet you here when it's all over. Let's go.
His energy on the sideline and in practice is contagious.
He drinks about, I think, 12 or 15 Mountain Dews a day. Whether it's spring ball, it's in a practice, or whether it's game day, he's got that same energy level.
He throws 7-on-7. He'll tell when the quarterbacks to step out, so he can throw 7-on-7.
How's he do?
He gets picked off a lot.
I throw too many picks.
This year, I think I've gotten 2, and he kind of gets hot about it.
I got to get my game together.
It was at practice. We're doing this goal line versus the service team. We're in full gear, and they hit head-to-head, everybody. All of a sudden, Coach Carroll jumps in on top of the whole pile with no pads, no helmet or anything, just jumps into it. And I have to say that was just like the most amazing thing I've seen by a coach.
As long as everything's kept in perspective and they know when it's serious and when it's the fun time. And what's really cool is when the seriousness becomes the fun. That's really the goal.
What Carroll is proudest about is the disappearance of that individualism the USC has had in recent years.
I think that's the thing that at least I appreciate most about what USC's been able to do with Pete Carroll is the team now, they're together as a unit, unified, playing as a group, which was missing before he got there. He also hired Norm Chow, who's worked his magic again. You think about losing a 4-year starter, your top 3 running backs. This offense right now is clicking. It looks like a carbon copy of last year's offense. It was the best in the country. A big reason has been the play of their quarterback. He has developed. Matt Leinart has gotten to the point now where he is very comfortable. Also, the offense is diverse. They mix it up. This is old USC. They're going to line up in the eye. A little bit of misdirection here where they fake to the fullback and get it out to the tailback, Reggie Bush. But the line does a great job, Lee. You've seen this for years. This is USC. Ask your tailback to make one guy miss with his speed and then get to the open field. How about the second level blocking? Greg Gunther, the big tight end, looking to light somebody up, and he picks up a safety downfield, makes the last block, and Bush, who is a freak as a true freshman, does the rest. And there's Mike Williams. Nice route, stems it to the outside, cuts back to the inside. The ball is perfectly thrown on time. And here's a new wrinkle that they've been able to do because of the development of the running backs. Man-to-man coverage, big mistake with Reggie Bush because they're going to slide him out of the backfield, and that's going to be the big thing today. Washington State's defense is experienced and they're fast, and they have a lot of confidence. A lot of man coverage, which means a lot of touchdown passes for Matt Leinart. Everybody's talking about potential upset. USC at home, Matt Leinart, big. I like the Trojans.
Nice pick.
Thank you.
Very good pick. Now let's take a look at the other team that has to show up, by the way. Washington State has won the last 2 times they played USC in LA, so they will not be intimidated. And they need a defensive performance, though, like they had at Oregon, where they had 7 interceptions, 2 fumble recoveries, and 2 punt blocks. Key guy, number 51, Will Durding. Watch him fill a hole. Wow! Now they got an athlete, number 29, Jason David. Watch the ability to jump, catch the football, and score with it. Now here's an interesting point. Washington State has won 10 of the last Pac-10 road games. Sounds like an upset. Not so fast, my friend. The guy here is right. USC's got too many talented athletes. I know. He's right.
They're not going to cooperate like the Ducks did.
No,
that's one thing. USC will not. Leinart's been a machine. The last 4 games, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. I don't think he can keep that pace up.
No, he's good.
I don't think he can keep that up.
Only chance is Kegel has to stay up with Matt Leinart because Leinart's going to put points up.
Too many athletes.
Be a great stretch run in the Pac-10. UCLA, by the way, in first place. You guys in first place in the league. We're ready for the game day stretch run. Bubba Sparks, what do you have for us?
It's a Bible Saturday, couldn't be no other way. Oklahoma State invades Norman with a 2 game. We was leaving against the Sooners, but this is a new game. Who came further in 1 minute spoker? And a Spartans team that last year was a joker. College football, look out at Ian Roses, but Michigan would love to sport it all. And you know this, down in Blacksburg, his shirt getting crucial. The games in the hope, he's a huge as usual.
Welcome back to College Game Day, built by the Home Depot.
Survivor of Bedlam could meet Nebraska in Kansas City if Jamal Lord and company can beat Texas. Roy Williams, 13 catches against Nebraska for a $161 a year ago. Now to the Buckeyes' visit to Beaver Stadium here. You'd be tempted to label this the final breather before the Buckeyes begin to battle for the Rose Bowl against the Spartans, Boilermakers, and Wolverines. You know, Penn State's trying to avoid Joe Paterno's first ever 5-game losing streak, trying to avoid the worst season since 1931. That's pre-Joe even. Now the Lions, they can't stop the run. They can't move the ball, and that old punt team has given up a touchdown in each of the last 3 games, and that's not good. But Ohio State, kind of a modest favorite. The mighty Buckeyes roll in, but a lot of people are expecting a close game. Now, I don't know.
Somebody knows something.
I don't know.
I don't know either. I tell you what, but I think Ohio State will win this football game with the same formula that Jim Tressel learned from his old Hall of Fame coach, Lee Tressel. Solid defense, good special teams, and an offense that doesn't beat you. I think Ohio State wins with that formula over Penn State.
You know, early in the year, it was obvious that Ohio State had to replace 5 starters on a defense that led them to the national championship. But early in the year, they became the strength, even though they had to replace those 5 starters. But I don't think the defensive coaches expected these guys to be this good. 5 new starters. You look at the tape from last year. You look at the way they're playing this year. You could make an argument that this defense this year is playing better than the group that won the national championship last year for Ohio State. One thing that's helped him is the defensive line in the front. The linebackers are playing incredibly across the board. A.J. Hawk is playing like an all-conference player, coming up and making plays, has a nose for the ball, great instinct. And maybe the best defensive end in the country is Will Smith. Watch his inside move, uses strength and speed to go right by the Indiana offensive tackle, and then gives him a little bit of something at the end there. Now, Chris is right. Penn State's possession passing game Their running game right now, they don't have a difference maker. Austin Scott's still too young against a defense that's allowing 51 yards a game on the ground. Big trouble. Big trouble for Penn State. Ohio State in this game could score 10 and be okay. The defense will get it done. That offense went over 600 yards last week. They got to generate a little bit more offense like they did last week.
Don't give them too much respect. Don't give Penn State too much respect. Over-under on Lions first downs?
I say 10.
10, all right.
What do you got?
Take the under. Most of you in the East and Midwest will see that game on ABC this afternoon. This is a rivalry that needs no extra spice, but certainly contains plenty today. They're fueled by humiliation of a 49-3 loss last year, and the Spartans cannot wait for this one. They have felt sick about it for a year. They're the underdogs at home, even though the home team has won 10 of the last 11 in this series, and they're the higher-ranked team at kickoff over Michigan for the first time in 35 years. Wolverines have not gotten over Spartan Bob. The timekeeper a couple of years ago gave him a couple extra seconds with a touchdown pass. He has retired, by the way. John L. Smith, he has no clue about this rivalry. It's his first coaching in a game like this. Smoker knows about this game, and he wants badly to play well. It was a year ago against Michigan. Jeff Smoker was not there. He was in a rehabilitation facility. He had been suspended for substance abuse. Boy, is he eager to show what he can do.
You can bet he's going to be excited to come out and play some good football for the Spartans. But I think the key is going to be really on the other side of the ball for the Michigan State defense. It's been feast or famine this year for the Spartans. On one hand, lead the nation with 34 sacks. They've forced 23 turnovers. On the other hand, a Big Ten worst, 270 yards a game through the air and 16 touchdown passes. That's the key. Can they get pressure on John Navarre, or will they give up those big plays? Because I know Lee loves Steve Breston, but Michigan's got a few other receivers that make plays, like Braylon Edwards. How about the hands here last week against Purdue to make the catch? And here's a future superstar. Jason Avant makes unbelievable moves, just waiting for an opportunity to get out and get into the open field. And Michigan to me is playing like a team with a second life since their big comeback against Minnesota, but they have to show they can win on the road. Since their national championship, this Michigan team is 5-10 on the road against ranked opponents. Carry the fight on the road, fellas. I think they will. Rivalry game will have them inspired. Michigan wins at East Lansing.
That's another good pick. You know, Michigan has a game breaker in Steve Breston. He's the only Michigan player in 54 years to score 4 different ways in one season. With a punt return, caught a touchdown pass, threw a touchdown pass, and run it. I'm telling you, this guy's a superstar. Michigan wins this one with Navarre and Breston.
Someday you could be Breston's agent.
I love the guy.
Just to temper your Breston mania, Michigan State has a lot better special teams. They got Fields, the punter. Rayner's a good kicker. DeAndre Cobbs had 2 kickoff returns for touchdowns. They got the midgets covering kicks. They're very good.
John Navarre.
Remember, guys, Michigan State has been perfect ever since James Conn, the ex-Spartan, delivered the post-Louisiana Tech pep talk. He's back with his 2 sons to stir up State now.
Michigan, you know, everybody jumped on Michigan this year because they beat Notre Dame. Well, me, these 2 guys, and probably 80 of you could beat Notre Dame this year, so they'll fold. They're front runners, I think, Michigan. You know, they're good up in front. They're like the town bully. You know, once they see their nose bleed, they run away.
Oh, the whole Conn family taunting Michigan. There's Jeff Smoker. I don't know if the Wolverine defense is going to be whimpering when they go after him. That's going to be a great matchup.
Not if they play like they did last week. They'll be ready.
All right, now back to the final chapter on Survival Saturday, and probably the final really big game in the history of the Big East Conference. Miami packs that 27-game conference win streak, that 18-game road winning streak, and the challenge tonight, can this Canes offensive line continue the offensive dominance over Virginia Tech? They've only allowed 1 sack in the last 3 years combined. They've had a 100-yard rusher each of the last 4 games. It was Willis McGahee romping to 6 touchdowns a year ago. Trying to exploit the suspect run stoppers of the Hokies tonight, of course, is Jarrett Payton. He's a physical 5th-year senior, finally enjoying his chance to show what he can do. Jarrett was a Miami freshman back in 1999 when his legendary father, Walter, died of bile duct cancer. But as John Bauer reports, the very strong father-son relationship lives on.
I just felt like I wanted him to walk in with me to the game. I want him to be at the game.
It was his first ever start against arch-rival Florida State.
When I saw him walk through that door with that 34 Peyton on, I said, this guy ready. We don't have to say anything to him.
Jarrett Payton could have shed the burden of the legend on his shoulders.
I said, he will carry his load. Don't worry.
Instead, he let that legend carry him.
I just feel like he was like my Superman for the day. You know, whatever was going to happen, he was going to be right there with me.
He really just reminded me of his dad that day. I knew Walter was with him. Yeah.
If Jarrett Payton remains remarkably close to his father, that's because nobody was ever closer to Walter Payton than his family.
When he used to whistle, that was his way of getting my attention. So whenever time I hear a whistle, it's like I turn and look around and, you know, I'm just like, is that him? Like, is that him? And I think that, to me, knowing that he's around with me all the time and just in my head talking to me all the time, I don't even have to say anything.
Much of Jarrett's childhood unfolded like a series of public father-son events. When Walter Payton was inducted into the Hall of Fame, Jarrett was there.
Not only is my dad an exceptional athlete, he's a role model. He's my biggest role model and best friend.
I was the first son to ever induct his father into the Hall of Fame. That right there is in the record books. And I think that was the biggest accomplishment I've done so far in my life.
When Walter Payton reached his lowest point, announcing his illness publicly in February of 1999, Jarrett was there, too.
This is your dad, your hero, the person that you thought was larger than life, you know, and here was someone who, you know, never had a sick day. I mean, it was always upbeat, and I'm sure in the back of their minds, you know, both kids are wondering, how did this happen? This wasn't supposed to happen to my dad, you know, what's going on?
People who are close to me say, do you have any emotions? Do you ever get sad or do you cry? And it's not that I try to be a hard person and try to be this macho guy and say, oh, I don't cry. I haven't cried since I was with my dad when he passed away. So, and not that I don't want to cry. Maybe it might help, but it doesn't make any sense to dwell on what happened and be sad. You know, I'm very happy the life that my dad lived. He affected so many people's life by the age of 45, and a lot of people can say they've done in a lifetime who lived to 100.
Despite his father's long shadow, Jarrett's decision to go to Miami had everything to do with finding his own identity.
I said, Jarrett, I never met your father. I know you. You're the Payton that I know, and that's who I'm going to judge is you.
Would I like him to be around? I love him for him to be around. It makes things a lot easier, but it also has made me have to step into my own role as being who I am, and that's Jarrett Payton.
He is such an impressive guy. But we don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised if he wore Walter's old number 34 Bears jersey like he did to Tallahassee and to Blacksburg tonight. Couldn't hurt.
It'll be there.
Boy, it really helped him in Tallahassee, too. He's a great player. And I'll tell you what, Miami's football team last week showed a lot of maturity against Temple. They took care of business in all aspects, especially the guy named Payton. He was terrific last week. And where's the things I like about him? Watch him running against the Knowles in a tough ball game. Boom, yeah, bang. But here's the most impressive thing about Payton. Watch him pick up the blitz on the bottom of your picture right there. The reason why that's important is because Virginia Tech's going to come after the quarterback, and he needs to block that. I think Miami's offensive system, the red zone scoring. They've been in the red zone 35 times. They scored all but 4 times. I think Miami wins a close one at Blacksburg.
Boy, Jarrett Payton's going to get a great opportunity. You're right, because Virginia Tech plays this gap control defense, an 8-man front, and when you play that kind of defense, if you have a guy lose a gap, miss an assignment, you're going to get gashed for a big run. And the other thing is you're very vulnerable to the pass because it's predictable what you're going to do on the back end with your secondary. This is an important game, I think, for Brock Berlin. He's got to be able to see the defense and make good decisions. Obviously, find Kellen Winslow. This kind of defense, Winslow could go crazy. And if they commit too many people to Winslow, the receivers have to step up. Ryan Moore, Kevin Beard. By the way, Roscoe Parrish will be back ready to go. So Miami will be at full strength on the outside. I think the emotional storm of this game, early in this game, Miami's got to kind of weather that, hang in there, let their defense keep them in it. Then once they settle down, Brock Berlin's going to have to be the key factor in this game, playing well on the road. If he plays poorly and they turn the football over, then Miami loses. I think Miami, with the defense, Berlin, throwing the football, will win the game.
Bigger concern for Miami's defense, is it Randall at $132 rushing as a quarterback last year? Kevin Jones really wasn't a factor. He's a backup to Suggs, but is it Jones or Randall?
I think it's Jones. If you take away Virginia Tech's running game, they lose their identity. They have to be able to run the football to do anything.
I think it's Randall because he'll make broken plays.
All right, that's our ESPN primetime game. Survival Saturday all builds down to that one. We're closing in on a kickoff, by the way, in East Lansing. Can Navarre win a big road game for the Wolverines against Sparty? And, of course, plenty more on Bedlam here, the Sooners and the Cowboys, after this.
On Campus is presented by Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right.
I like a block punt by Florida State. I'll take Florida State. 31-30. Hey! I'll take Notre Dame. 31-30.
As our first College Game Day road show.
10 years ago.
You're still up to your old tricks, right there.
But look at the difference in the hair. Color black.
By the way, Notre Dame underdog won at home against Florida State. That's the matchup, of course, today. And then for the Noles, injuries have been a concern all year. Jeff Womble, their big run stopper, is back, and that's key. But linebacker Kendall Pope, potential All-American, he is out. It's the Florida State offense, though, that's really focused on atonement. They unraveled a year ago against Notre Dame. Looked terrible. Ricks with the turnovers. And here's a weather report for you, because it's always important for that Florida State offense. There is a chance of rain in the second half. So they might play well early, but then start fumbling around late. That could happen. I'm just saying.
Every week
we give them the weather.
Okay, just in case. Florida State's got their running backs back, so it should make their running game better and take a little bit of pressure off of Chris Ricks, so he doesn't have to win it by himself. Now, here's a perfect example of Rick's scrambling ability. Number 16 hits Carvanzo Thorpe for a touchdown. Leon Washington returns this punt. Leon had 207 yards of total offense in this ball game, and he's back 100% for the Irish. Now, those VOs showed exactly why I'm picking Florida State. Speed and athletic ability, and especially on the special teams, but it's going to be so close, so close, so close. Florida State really close.
Woke up this morning, came up these steps, tried to convince myself to go with Notre Dame. You know, the luck of the Irish, they're back at South Bend, they have to win. It's just the speed of the. I just saw the tape there. I have to go with Florida State.
Okay. Oh, a late pick.
Yeah,
late pick.
All right.
Based on the VO.
All right, gotcha. Yes.
All right. Back now to Bedlam. It's labeled the most important installment of this rivalry ever. This game was moved from the end of the season to the beginning of November at OU's request. It kind of implies it was tough to focus on the Cowboys before. Les Miles grew up around the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry. He was an assistant to Bill McCartney when the Buffaloes challenged mighty Nebraska as a rival. And by the way, Miles speaks exactly like a Bo Schembechler clone. He has got his team to buy in and to believe. Just listen.
They can celebrate in Stillwater. What an upset. A shock in Norman this afternoon.
We seem to play our best versus them.
The Cowboys beat the Sooners for the second consecutive season.
Whenever they get out on the field, they can see the intimidation that they have against the other teams. And when they play against us, you know, we try to look at them as another team.
I think a lot of schools, by watching film and watching the games on TV, they might be intimidated, but I don't think we'll be intimidated at all.
I don't really believe in the intimidation factor. I think the main thing is just going out and outperform your opponent.
Rashawn Woods, touchdown Oklahoma State. Going for the bundle. Woods is there. Touchdown Oklahoma State.
Woods always, finds ways to, get past defenders. He torched them last year.
He wants the ball in his hands. When he wants it, I don't know if there's anything they can do about it.
He has a penchant for making big plays in big games, and generally when we play OU, it's a big game.
As for the Sooners, the Stoops brothers cannot believe that Les Miles has stirred it up that way this week. Mike Stoops told us last night, never has an Oklahoma team been better prepared to win a football game than they are for this one. If you're a Cowboy today, there's something else to beware. Bob Stoops' sneaky side. Now, as a man, he's kind of a conservative guy. But as a coach, he's kind of a high-stakes gambler, very unafraid of risks. You know, Mark Twain said, why go out on a limb? Because that's where the fruit is. And the rewards of these risks have indeed been very fruitful for Bob Stoops. Tom Rinaldi now on those rewards, because if you've ever played risk and you've ever captured Kamchatka from Alaska, you understand.
Ooh. What can a board game teach us about Sooner football? Nothing, unless you're Bob Stoops.
percentage. To me, it's all percentages.
How do you define risk?
Probably being back there on a 4th down and 10 doing a fake punt pretty much at Alabama, which I consider a risk.
Here they come right up the middle. And they're going to throw a pass, and it's complete at the 30-yard line. Michael Thompson. And how about that gamble by Coach Stoops?
Missouri from last year. How would you characterize the level of risk in that decision?
There was a lot there.
It was very risky, putting the hands in a defensive back and a third-team tight end.
Just missed from 43 yards away. And now the fake into the end zone. Touchdown, Oklahoma. So Bob Stoops, the gambler.
It was pretty risky because, as I said, I've never had a pass thrown to me until that point.
We're not out there making foolish calls. We're not out there just all throwing it up and see what happens.
Just last week, the fake kickoff, that was pretty risky.
There's an onside kick.
Onside kick, and the Sooners are going to get it. What a heads-up play again by Bob Stoops.
Just how far do these risk-taking tendencies go at Oklahoma off the field? How would you feel about a player running with scissors?
As long as he's carrying the pointed end, it'd be all right.
What are your thoughts on swimming less than an hour after a meal?
I've been doing that since I was a little bitty kid. It's not that big a deal to me. Solid as a rock.
How about crossing the street, Bob, but only looking one way?
Never. Percentages aren't good.
I used to ride around in my car a lot on empty, and then it would actually run out.
As for risks in the game of love, it'll have to be later for these Sooners. What's the last risk you took that didn't work out?
Probably trying to talk to a girl and got denied.
What is the last risk you took that didn't work out?
Probably girlfriend situation would be my last time.
I always thought there was kind of a level of flirtation between us, and maybe, I guess you didn't see the same level, and I just tried to ask her for a phone number and was totally shut down.
We had a great relationship and everything, and I was ready to move on with my life, and, we'll just leave it at that. That risk-taking was as much as I'll go for.
That's gutsy to admit that.
Oh,
his teammates are all over
him. If his teammates are watching, he's done.
Yeah, he's done.
He's done.
You say that Stoops got that from Steve Spurrier. 1996, Florida at Tennessee, opening series, big ball game in the rain. They go for it on 4th down. Danny Werfel, touchdown. Tennessee was stunned. Gators won a national title. I can't wait to see if we get a few gambles today.
Let me tell you, if Florida, no, not Florida, Oklahoma wants to stay on track for the national title, there's 2 things that they must do today. The first thing is they have to get pressure on Josh Fields. He can't stay back there and have time to throw, because if he does, Rashawn Woods could have a big day. The second thing is the safeties for Oklahoma have to be disciplined and stay home. Last year, Oklahoma State exploited the middle of the field, and if those safeties don't stay home, I tell you what, it's going to be a big day for the Oklahoma State offense.
Speaking of big days, Oklahoma has 3 stars on their special teams. Trey DiCarlo has hit 7 for 7 for over 40 yards. Blake Ferguson averages over 43 yards a kick, and he downs it inside the 10. But the superstar of superstars, Antonio Perkins, number 28. When he gets a punt, it is like flies down the field. And let's watch him as he shows us how he does the punt return.
Ooh, helmet cam here.
Ooh, this is good stuff.
It happens fast, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a little virtual cam there.
Good, okay. Now, it's a big if poor Oklahoma can beat Oklahoma State, I think it's going to be with the special teams.
Special teams, that was good stuff there. Good killing there with the virtual cam. Let's go back to the matchup here. Oklahoma State's offense going against the OU defense. What makes Oklahoma State so good? We've talked about their balance and an aggressive attitude. In this game, I think they have a quarterback in Josh Fields who's going to look at the Oklahoma defense and try to make the proper check, and he's a veteran. To give you an idea of what we're looking at, look at our EA Sports virtual playbook to show you what Josh Fields is going to try to do when he moves the football, or if he's able to move the football against Mike Stoops' defense. The big thing to watch today, the safeties. If you see 2 safeties back, Fields will check to the run for Tatum Bell. Now, whether or not they're going to block like this, like we do in a video game, we'll have to wait and see. But the safeties back will tell Josh Fields, go to Tatum Bell and run. Now, if the Oklahoma safeties We're going to move up. They're going to go to the old zone blitz that we talk so much about with Oklahoma, and they're going to bring pressure. They're going to try to check to a certain call to give Fields time, get the protection, and that's when you get the matchup here that you got to try to take advantage of. Find Rashawn Woods, keep the safety deep. Nice window right there for Josh Fields to put it into Rashawn Woods. Now, all that looks really nice on the video game, but when you're trying to execute in front of a hostile crowd with a defense that's really upset because of the way things have gone the last 2 years, it's a whole different deal. The other thing is, a true freshman starts at right tackle for Oklahoma State.
Not good.
Yo. Yeah, the Oklahoma defensive line is so embarrassed about a year ago. Tommy Harris was shut out, no tackles. They're much, much healthier this time around at bent on redemption. It was also sunny in the video game. It's not sunny here. It is gloomy.
It is gloomy.
It has gotten gloomier and even heavier drizzle. How will that impact the game? Predictions straight ahead.
On Campus is presented by Outback Steakhouse. No rules, just right. College Game Day, built by the Home Depot. You can do it. We can help. In part by Budweiser. Grab a cold, fresh Budweiser. It's game time.
Survival Saturday, the games that will shape the championship. Trace, Nebraska and Texas getting set to kick off in Austin.
Okay, I go Texas the winner with Vince Young the quarterback.
I have Nebraska's defense too tough for Vince Young, and especially the Texas offensive line. I like Nebraska.
Knowles and Notre Dame and South Bend.
Florida State speed and special teams. Close.
Ditto. Florida State speed. Too much for Notre Dame.
Michigan State in East Lansing.
Michigan, big plays, fourth quarter.
John Navarre passing. And I think Steve Breston, your guy Jason Avant, also look out for today.
Cocktail party in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, Florida. I'm going with Florida.
Georgia, circle the wagons. Adversity will bring them together. Georgia wins.
Washington State and USC in the Coliseum.
USC's athletes win it close.
USC's passing. I think Matt Leinert's going to be the MVP of the day with all this crazy football around. Matt Leinart, look out for him today.
And one game everybody's going to watch, all the BCS contenders. Can Miami survive the trip to Blacksburg tonight on ESPN?
Yes, Miami wins it. Red zone offense.
I think Brock Berlin will have a great game tonight. Also Jared Payton, but the Miami defense is the difference. I like the game.
And now Bedlam. Pretty much everybody rooting against Oklahoma except all these Sooner fans right here. Can the Cowboys possibly get the hat trick, win 3 in a row, bro?
I'll just make one thing perfectly clear. Oklahoma State is here to win. They're not intimidated at all by Oklahoma and everything that Oklahoma has to offer. They're here to show that they're going to make it 3 in a row. I'm not buying it. I think Oklahoma at home beats Oklahoma State. Too many players that are desperate to get redemption from Oklahoma.
I picked Oklahoma to play in the national title game, didn't I?
I know. Once you make a pick.
My pick.
Once he makes a pick, he does not waver.
Oh, he's not moving.
It's the patented Sooner Schooner. We've seen that one before, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, plenty.
We've seen the pageant wave before.
What are you doing?
Miss America.
All right, so these guys are not calling for all that many upsets on Survival Saturday. We'll see.
You have one for us?
There's a couple. It's going to happen. There's going to be a couple. They have to happen. Upsets have to happen.
I know.
You watch. Either Ohio State goes down or Florida State goes down.
No way.
Maybe Michigan goes down.
Florida State, I could see.
All right. Enjoy Survival Saturday on ABC and ESPN. Northwestern, Purdue. Next, right here. We'll see you back from Norman later on today.
This week, Les Miles said 2 teams are going to play. One is maybe the best college football team in America. The other one's a darn good football team. We're going to find out which one is which. Oklahoma State and Oklahoma. Bedlam getting ready to start. Chris Fowler and the guys are out there.
It is the build-up to Bedlam, and the weather's improved. The sun has come out. No more drizzle. That's good news for both offenses. Guys, good news for Michigan fans. It's always sweet